Welcome to our live talk on the Gamescom Retro channel. My name is Patrick and I'm your host. We are the Retrokompott Podcast and we are taking our listeners back in time through the history of computer and video games since 5 years. You can find us at retrokompott.de. In addition, we also broadcast weekly on Twitch, where we play old games together. And all broadcasts can also be found on YouTube under the name of Retrokompott. We would be happy if you subscribe us there. What are we doing today? In the last 5 years, we have interviewed several retro legends. Some of them are with us today in the live stream. To be curious, I think such a get-together of legends from the retro game scene has been rarely seen before. Now I would like to welcome our team. Marcel, our technical assistant.
Yes, hello and good evening and welcome to our show.
And we have Ingo.
Hello and welcome to the Retrokompott Stammtisch. I hope you will enjoy the evening.
And there's Manfred.
Hallo und guten Abend. Hello and good evening.
Michael.
Hello and good evening. Wish you all a good show tonight.
Yeah, and we have Robin and Frank in the background too. And all of them are responsible for the smooth running of the game in the background. In addition, there's also Danny.
Hello and good evening. I hope you enjoy our show tonight.
And Arne.
Yes, hello and welcome.
Who supports us with the English discussions. At first, we will introduce you to Daivd Fox, an American designer, writer, and programmer who was involved, for example, in programming and designing numerous early LucasArts games. Welcome to the show, Daivd Fox.
Hey there.
Hello.
The games came out to so many platforms. Is there any specific platform that you prefer? And also, what was your favorite platform in terms of development?
Well, for me, I was way more familiar with the Atari 800 because I actually wrote a book on programming animation called Computer Animation Primer, which is available online for free. Someone scanned it. So that was my favorite computer, and I never was a huge fan of the Commodore 64, even though and I was also jealous that they surpassed the Atari 800, which is what I had mostly invested in. But going up to DOS, and especially when we had more colors, that was so freeing compared to being limited on the earlier systems. So I don't know that I felt attached to anything after that. Going to Maniac Mansion on, where we were using SCUM, I never really had to worry about the hardware that much. That was all a different layer that I had to do. I didn't have to deal with that layer at all. Doing Thimbleweed Park with a modern system and modern equipment was like, having been in jail for all those other games, and all of a sudden having as much space and as much color and objects animating and as we wanted to. That was a very fun experience, and I have to deal with that. Plus the fact that you could make a change and reload in a second, as opposed to way back in the old days where it'd be like 5 or 10 minutes to do a build onto the disk in order to test it. So that was also very freeing.
The next is Noah Falstein. He's an American game designer and producer, and he's known, among other things, for his works on the Lucasfilm games Sinister and, for example, Indiana Jones. Hello, Noah.
Hello, and thank you for that wonderful nostalgic rush to see all those old computer systems that I've worked on. I did some programming for that Atari 2600 you showed, and the first cartridges on that were 2K, the larger ones were 4K, so the entire game, graphics, sound, everything in 2K, so it's 2048 bytes, and we had 128 bytes of RAM. That was the entire RAM. You really have to look at it as 1024 bits, because you have to use each one individually if you wanted to get any kind of gameplay out of it. So yeah, things have changed quite a bit.
We have a question from the audience, a question to Noah from Sean75. Would you explain how you got the idea for the word Flugelduffel in Indiana Jones 4?
That may be a question for Boris Schneider, because he did our German translations and did an amazing job. I want to give a nod to not only Boris for doing the translations, but to everyone in Germany for being our staunchest fans. That a lot of our games sold many times as well in Germany as they did in the US. So I don't know what the Flugeldorfer or whatever it was that you mentioned might be, but I can only imagine that was a translation of something that we did in English originally.
Next, we have Scott Adams, the co-founder of Adventure International, and he wrote many very early adventures, starting in 1978 with Adventureland. Welcome to our show, Scott. Hello.
Greetings and welcome.
Yeah,
wonderful to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
I wanted to say something. I just want to say hi to Scott.
Hey, David! Wonderful to see you. Where's the spaceship?
Scott and I actually, before Lucas, I was running a computer center, Marine Computer Center with my wife, Public Access Center.
Yes.
And one of the things we got to do was get early copies of Scott's games on the TRS-80 and offered to adapt them for the Apple II. It's actually probably one of my starts in programming was by looking at your code and and occasionally finding a bug, and but mostly just learning how to do adventure games by tearing apart your games and then getting them to work on the Apple II, which was actually hard because they're all written in BASIC, and the TRS-80 BASIC was a much superior BASIC to the AppleSoft. So it was fun to have this connection and to be able to see you throughout the years.
Good to see you too, David. Wonderful to have you here. There were two Davids that were always very special to me, and that was David All and David Fox.
David All.
There was an episode of Big Bang Theory where one of the characters on there was playing a game and you couldn't quite make out what it was. And they said, "What is this?" He says, "It's a text adventure." And he was reading what he was doing. And then he says, "This runs on the most powerful graphics processor ever created, the human imagination." I've had players write me over the years saying that they've gone back and looked at the game again and they remembered this fantastic forest where the game starts in, and they had this lush, vivid imagination. Then they went in and read the game, and it says, "I'm in a forest, visible here are trees, period." That was it. Their memory of it was so totally filled in.
I see Richard Bartle is online. He is a British writer, professor, and game researcher, and he was involved in Mud 1, an early multi-user dungeon game, and he's a pioneer in the world of MMOs. Welcome, Richard. Hello.
Hello. Yes. Pioneer, still alive.
I see that you worked on the multi-user dungeons or invented those. And I read that multi-user dungeon allows players to make their own rooms. Is this really true? And did you already back then do this?
Well, when we started out, yes. The problem was that the users weren't very good at making their own rooms. So we took that facility out. And about 10 years later, it was added again independently. We were getting inconsistencies. There were different styles. Some people couldn't spell. Some people couldn't had no command of grammar. And the conversation you were having earlier about how much memory was available. Well, on our computer, we did it on a mainframe. You need that entire lab in Hamburg to hold the computer, which has got about as much power as probably an Apple Watch or something like that at the moment. But it was big then. We still only had a limited amount of memory, 70K of 36-bit words. After people kept adding things, sooner or later we ran out of memory, and that was a reasonable point at which to say, "I'm sorry, we're throwing all your garbage where it goes." And from then on, we took control over the fiction of the game.
The third person who can join us now is Simon Butler. He worked for more than 30 years in the gaming industry on more than 300 titles as artist, game designer, manager, producer, and author. His ZX Spectrum games are legendary, but he's also involved in the re-release of Leisure Suite Larry. Welcome to the show, Simon.
Greetings. Or
Yeah,
am I right in saying grüß dich? Yeah, and there's me. I get given 16 colors and sort of 256 tiles, and I've got to paint the world. Yeah, I worked on a lot of the machines, but the machines were just awful, absolutely awful. I will also go right back to earlier on when the camera was going around the studio in Hamburg and somebody said, "Oh, we don't have PlayStation 3, that's too modern." That is incorrect, because my main problem with the retro community is their use of the word retro. They think that the word retro means old or aged or vintage or antique. Retro means in the style of something that existed before.
We have Thomas Hertzler, a German programmer, designer, and producer who started in the 80s at Rainbow Arts, where he programmed versions of Bad Cat and Gianna Sisters, among others. In 1988, he co-founded Blue Byte and was co-responsible for series like Siedler and Battle Eye. Hello, Thomas.
Hello. I have another game if you want to talk a bit about Schleichfahrt. I think it was absolute state of the art at the time. Unfortunately, it didn't really reflect in the sales after all. And I think that was mostly due because the big guys were getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Smaller guys were disappearing and the middle field was kind of struggling, where I would probably count us into the middle field. So it didn't really, unfortunately, it didn't really do that well. It didn't do bad, but it could have done, I think, a lot better.
So I found this one, and you got your Blue Byte under the Great Coats logo.
Yes. And that was all we were getting. We wouldn't get they wouldn't put our logo on it. And as these things go, you basically have to negotiate for every millimeter, for every inch. And we want our logo on the front. We want our name on the front. We want these credits. It's like pulling teeth, right? Yeah. The publisher will not give you anything, any recognition if they don't have to. At least back in those days, that was the case.
We have Bernhard Avas, known through Battle Eye, History Line, and various titles from Blue Byte, Limbic Entertainment, Flair Games, and Area Games. Since 1990, he has been working in game development, is still a member of the jury of the German Developer Award. Hello, Bernhard.
Hello, nice to see you all. Hey.
And then there was some sort of game called History Line, which shook a bit in the media because they said, "Oh my God, you cannot make a game out of World War I."
There were lots of discussions. We talked a lot because we wanted all the machines, tanks, and planes out of World War II for this kind of game. And but as Thomas said, it was impossible to make a game at this time. There was SSI and others which did these war games, but for a German company, it was for our market. It was very, very difficult. It was a hard decision. Interesting is that the History Line was used in schools for teaching history of the beginning of the First World War because of the introduction we did. And that's kind of turned out quite good, I think.
Then we have Hans Ippisch. He's a former German game developer, computer game journalist, and was editorial director and CEO of the Computing Media Group. Today he worked for Intellivision Entertainment and the new console Amico. Welcome to our show, Hans.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Question from the chat: why should we buy the Amico?
Because it's bringing fun back into the living room, play together with your friends and your family. And that's something that we are missing in the 80s or 90s. And that's the reason why you should buy an Amico. And by the way, I want to add one thing to History Line, because at that time I was editor-in-chief of Amiga Games, and we loved History Line and didn't ever have a problem with that, because for us it was like from the company that brought Battle Isle. So we loved History Line. I think Blue Byte at that time was the most ambitious company in Germany, and you did so many things for the first time. First console game, so you did the Super Nintendo game. You really tried to expand the business, and so I think that's really wow. We all learn our lessons, and we are here right now, which is a great thing.
There's Ralf Adam. He's active in the computer industry since 1993 and worked for Infogrames, Atari, Sunflowers, Jowat, and Disney, Eidos, and Vivendi Universal. Hi, Ralf.
Hey, guys. Nice to be here.
And
many familiar faces. Great to see you all. Prost.
Hi, thanks.
I found something typical German.
That looks familiar.
Somebody can tell me why this one is the new version.
I think we did an update. Is that the CD-ROM version? I mean, the first was a disc version, and we later did the CD-ROM version also with audio.
Longer playtime, better fighting system.
I think that just means we patched it and removed some of the bugs.
But it's better now.
And sold it with brand new. And did we, for the CD-ROM version, enhance anything? I don't think so. The Fugger is the reason why Sunflowers was founded, and Sunflowers later became famous for the Anno series. Funny side note, by the way, the company name came from toilet papers. because we thought about great names like Black Holes, whatever. And one day Adi Boyko came in, I just came from the toilet and we have this toilet paper and it has such a friendly name and it's such a positive thing. And I think Sunflowers is the name. We were all kind of like, what? So the company was named after toilet paper.
We have Joachim Hesse. He is a game journalist in the print and online sector, well known for PC Action, Spieletipps, and today a part of the Gronk team. Hello, Joe.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Did you ever thought that new games would be published on old machines?
This doesn't surprise me. You see new games every year since the machines went from the shopping malls. And yeah, I really enjoy it playing the games, but Reshoot is a good example for good games on the machines. You see a lot of games you won't play if they won't be retro. I think the most important part of a game are the controls. If the controls are working fine, you can play even really old games nowadays. Yeah. But if the controls are bad, you won't touch it.
I do have a question about some covers on magazines, which disturbed me very much in my youth. Joe, tell us about covers on magazines.
Yeah, sex sells. That's right, because once we put Schumacher on the cover and it was a worst selling issue ever.
I see Richard Löwenstein. He worked for Amiga Joker and PC Joker for a long time and was later also editor-in-chief there. Also known for new developments like the Reshoot series. Hello, Richard.
Servus, hi.
Come on, Richie, let's tell us. What's up? What's happening?
This is actually not a retro game. This is a modern game. I'm currently developing for the Amiga computers. I began developing shoot 'em ups for the Amiga like in 1991, but then did not have the time to really develop a finished product. So I kept it to myself what I had for like 25 years, and then I started developing again in 2015. And I released my first Amiga game in 2016, just for the fun of it. It's called Reshoot. I learned so many things while developing the game, and I also got some experts in, like, for example, graphics, like Oliver Lindau, who spoke to me and told me, Richard, as good as Reshoot might be, it could be so much better if you do it like this and do it like that. And also the guys from Factor 5 told me you need to modify the collision detection and stuff like that. And so I began developing another game. That's the one you see in front of you. That's Reshooter.
That's the Reshooter we have in the retro location and which is played a lot.
I'm waiting for the other scroller because I like the other direction.
Wait just a couple of months and then you will get it. It's called Reshoot Proxima 3. And that's going vertical.
We have Rolf Klein, a German engineer, programmer, and pioneer of computer journalism, probably known to many through the game Ports of Call. Hello, Rolf.
Hello, hi. Hi. Hope you can hear me.
Prince Valium has a question. Was the second part of Ports of Call planned for the Amiga?
No, never. We changed from Amiga then to the PC, but Amiga was a little bit a bad story on the marketing company Aegis, which did get bankrupt, never get paid from them. But so we left the Amiga and tried to implement the whole thing on the PC. The engine was an Amiga emulator running inside the PC. So I re-implemented the whole graphic stuff for the PC, and then we continued on the PC. The history of the Amiga selling stopped us from doing more for the Amiga. We never get anything from the Amiga part. There was a lot of non-sold copies outside. I think almost everybody had Ports of Call. We get a piece of chocolate from Aegis as a result.
Oh. You see a lot of stuff and technique behind you. So I was wondering.
That's right. And, if I switch here over, there's a lot of technical stuff here.
Looks like you got a flux compensator somewhere hidden.
Yeah, no, this is on the other side.
We have Oliver Lindau. He's a graphic designer of the Bones Park software artistic team, worked for Magic Bytes and Starbyte, but also for companies like Talion, Eclipse, and Escon. Hello, Oliver.
Yeah, hello. Good evening. I want to say something about times back then. When I went in the games industry, it was about 1990 to 1993. And this was also the companies I worked for, they were not as, what can I say? I was working for Starbyte, for example, and they were known about how they pay their freelancers. I was at Magic Bytes before. They were known how they paid the freelancers.
Yeah.
And some other companies which are similar. This was the one part. And I always thought back then that the games industry was kind of split. There were good companies and there were bad companies. Some of the good companies, Blue Byte was known as good company, and so was Ascon or Ascaron, or Italian also. But many others weren't. And I remember how many super creative people left the industry because of that.
We want to introduce you to Rebecca and Heineman, Becky, an American video game programmer designer, well known for titles like Bard's Tale 3 and as a founding member of Interplay. Hi, Becky. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on the show. I'm glad to be here.
Becky, I do have a question for you. When someone becomes Space Invaders master, what does parents think of its child sitting there playing Space Invaders?
Before I ran away from home because my parents beat me, threw me through windows, hit me with plates, baseball bats, and a large scythe, I never really gave a shit about what my parents thought of me and anything about them. I pretty much severed all my ties with my parents about when I was like 15. I lived behind a dumpster for about 3 months that used to be called, store was like Market Basket. And I remember that every Wednesday was when they threw out the old produce, and every Sunday was when they threw out all the things like cupcakes and things like that. So I knew when to go get food. If it wasn't for a friend of mine who took me in, because what he was trying to do is convert me to Mormonism of all things, but at least he was nice in which he had me come by, and we played video games all the time on his Atari 2600. Later on, I realized that my mom and dad divorced. I then moved back in with my mom, and it was about maybe 4 or 5 weeks later was when my friend drove me to Topanga Canyon Plaza because he was so convinced I was so good at video games that I had a shot at winning. And that is how I ended up winning the regionals. And then 2.5, 3 weeks later, I got my ticket to go fly to New York City, and I flew alone. So when you look at all the photos and pictures of me during the contest where the other contestants had their parents behind them, I had no one.
And it's a great honor to have John here. He is a computer game designer, game artist, musician, and founder of Sensible Software, and responsible for games like Sensible Soccer, Cannon Fodder, and many others. Welcome, John. Hi.
Hello.
And I found another game you were written as a graphics artist.
This is funny. So when I very first started making games, my friend Chris, who I set the company up, he got a job as a programmer and I got a job as an artist. And we were working through this company that was actually taking most of the money for the work we did. We found out in the end, 85% in some cases. Anyway, so but for them, we only got 15%, did all the work, but good for them if they can get it. I designed a character for Trivial Pursuit. It's this rather ugly thing with a big nose. And what I remember from this most of all is the company I did it with, they were based in Oxford and I was living in Essex at the time, to London. So I actually went and spent the night away in a hotel in Oxford to do some work. And my mother was very impressed that I said I was going to Oxford to work because of the association with the university. So, you know, as a lot of you guys know, doing games in those days was effectively like your child has dropped out. What the hell are they going to do with their life? Luckily, most of us managed to make something out of it in the end. But yeah, this is early days. You know, I think I was 18 when I worked on that, maybe 19.
Julian Eggebrecht joined us. Hi, Julian.
Hi, hey guys.
A question from Titan. If someone of you can tell about Manfred Trenz, what he is doing.
Manfred is completely out of games, as far as I know, at least. We had contact just last year. We essentially struck a deal a few years back that basically we're divvying up the money which is coming in from the anthology and anything that has to do with Tarkin or Katakis. We're divvying up between us at Factor 5 and Manfred, so he's always getting his cut. There was a lot of talk about animosities and everything for a decade or for 2 decades between us and Manfred, which isn't true. We actually did not talk at all, not out of spite or anything. It's just because we moved over into to the States. He moved back from Düsseldorf to his hometown. We had a call 2 years ago when we did the whole deal, which was super nice. Both of us said, hey, big mistake that we didn't talk before. And also to finally get rid of all of these rumors that there's basically some animosity or something in the air. Manfred just doesn't want to do press. I think he got got burned a couple of times in 1990, especially, or 89, by a couple of press articles, which he didn't like, and he simply didn't want to talk to the press ever afterwards again. He isn't involved in games at all anymore.
I now want to talk to Factor 5 too. Perhaps Julian can introduce us to the whole team, because I lost a bit the overview in these elements.
Factor 5 went through many permutations, of course. We've got quite a few of our guys here. We've got Andreas Escher, who was fantastic and is a fantastic graphics artist. Andreas did the graphics for Turrican 2, and then later also worked on International Superstar Soccer, which we did for the Genesis, actually.
I was wondering why you put KW in your chat, Andreas.
I'm using another computer. First time I'm using Zoom.
Thanks for joining us, Andreas.
Then we've got Rudolf Stember. Rudy always did the video production and also music and sound effects at Factor 5, mostly throughout the Rogue Squadron and Star Wars years.
Hello.
And then we've got Lutz Osterkorn. Lutz is one of the original founders of Factor 5 when the whole thing was still called the Light Circle. Lutz actually was our first artist in the sense that he took the R-Type arcade game and copied every pixel of it for Katakis, which was the first Factor 5 game.
Lutz, hi.
Hi guys. Becky, you can play a round of Space Invaders against Willi, because Willi is a big Space Invaders Atari ST expert. No, Atari VCS 2600 expert. Yeah, he always has a high score.
Well, my score was 165,200 points, which is after 1 hour and 45 minutes of play.
He's just a local hero. Forget it.
Who else do we have here? Well, Chris Hülsbeck, of course, in a sense, for a few years was our in-house sound magician.
He also wrote the soundtracks for 3 films and published his works on CD. In the first years of his career, he often worked with Manfred Trenz, Factor 5 and Rainbow Arts. In 1990, he was one of the founders of the Kaiko company. Welcome, Chris.
Hello, oder hallo auch in Deutsch.
Hi, Chris.
Nice round of people here. Very excited to be part of it.
In terms of you not liking genres, I remember when you had to do the title track for Master Blazer, which has this jazzy, random stuff. You absolutely hated it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't like certain genres of jazz music, particularly the ones where it seems to be just chaos of notes and not like a nice melody. But I can appreciate some jazz music, and luckily you gave me enough freedom to do that title music. There's still enough Hülsbeck in there, I think.
And Willi Becker, of course, also one of the original Factor 3s. Willi actually did lots of level design over the years and also programming.
Hi, Willi.
Hello, everybody. As Julian said, I'm one of the founding members of Factor 5 or Factor 3 back then. I have good memories in your cellar because I spent a lot of money in some of your games or some of the old games which I bought from your cellar in your wonderful shop that you have.
We have Frank in the meeting now.
Most favorite of the Turricans.
You and Andreas, you can fight it out.
Yeah, maybe you think so. Turrican too, yeah.
Obviously, if I'm looking at the ones that I was able to participate then Mega Turrican is actually my favorite.
Martinelli asks, we need a real remastered copy of Ippisch for consoles and PC. Will there be a chance?
I would definitely agree that we need that. Whether that'll happen, I don't know, but it would definitely be something I'd personally be looking forward to, and I'm sure Chris.
Me too.
So
was
let's
a completely
see.
remastered soundtrack, of course. The chances are better than ever for something like that, huh? What do you think,
I would
Frank?
say so as well. Yes.
Okay.
No, I mean there's nothing to announce, but we've been looking at that for the past I suppose 25 years. Eventually, it'll happen, but I've no idea when and how.
But very good and observant questions. Thank you very much.
Yes.
And a lot of more are here too. Bernd Lehan. Hello, Bernd.
Hello. Sorry, I'm new to Zoom actually. Hi there.
Bernd, you might talk about this game.
Oh my God!
Yeah, that's such an ugly cover.
You've seen so much.
One of you mentioned this before. Somebody outside of the company did the cover. This is also really terrible artwork that happened at Rainbow Arts at the time. And this is especially painful because we did a really beautiful cover for this exact same game. The guy that founded the company with me, Frank Küster, he made a really cool artwork for this cover of this game, but Rainbow Arts, in its infinite wisdom, decided that they wanted to put a dead fly on a scanner, scan it, and put that on the
Who came up with that? Was that Mark Ulrich himself?
I don't know. I heard a story afterwards that there was some, dare I say, corruption going on inside Rainbow Arts. I think there was even some lawsuit, not because the cover is so ugly, but because but because I think somebody had some internal deals with an advertisement agency that needed to do.
I remember that one. Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember
and I think
that one.
this is. This came out of that. It's especially painful because I still have this poster of our original proposal for the cover.
Well, I'd like to welcome the guys from the Scene World podcast, AJ and Jörg.
Hello.
Thank you.
Hello.
Thank you.
And Martin. Martin is also from Scene World.
Yeah, I'm not only working for Richard Löwenstein.
Martin is everywhere.
He's dancing on all shows at once. Right. John, I just want to say thank you very much because in 2016 we met at Gamescom. And we had a little talk in the retro area, and actually you sang the Cannon Fodder song live. And I played the accordion.
I remember this. It's fun. Yes. Oh, you found the link of us doing this thing.
Yeah, this was awesome.
I didn't know that actually existed.
Hey guys, this is amazing. I just took a screenshot of my Zoom app because I've never seen so many great names, so many legions on one screen or one picture at all. So this is amazing. I will show this to my daughter once she understands what is going on here.
Some more comments from the chat. Marco had a nice comment. This stream is much better than the main stream of the Gamescom. They should have put it on the front page. Thanks.
Very good.
Yeah.
Was ging hier bitte gerade ab?
Was
Es war der
war
Wahnsinn.
das?
Wir sind noch live, nur zur Info. Wir bleiben
Alles gut.
live.
Ich hätte noch gerne ein paar Fragen gestellt, aber man kam einfach nicht mal rein.
Was im Chat abging, war auch toll. Danke schon mal auch an den Chat. Ihr seid unglaublich. Wir konnten gar nicht mehr auf alles eingehen. Das war einfach viel. Ich bin selbst völlig überwältigt. Das war mir das Unglaublichste, was ich hier erlebt habe. Und wir haben bei unserem Podcast schon viele unglaubliche Sachen gemacht. Aber mit diesem Abend hätte ich so nicht gerechnet. Im Chat steht hier drin, it was great, we remember it as a Gamescom 2020 highlight. Ich weiß gar nicht, was wir dazu jetzt sagen können, außer vielen Dank. Also Wahnsinn.
Ja.
Amazing.
Ich bin völlig fertig.
Patrick, in
Es war der
English,
Hammer.
please. We still have a few listeners and viewers.
In
Oh,
English?
of course, but my English now is sleeping, I think. Sorry. Thanks a lot again and let's calm down with the after show. Danke an alle, danke auch an das tolle Team hier nochmal auf dem Wege. Danke an Robin, dass er die Technik hier so hinbekommen hat, dass sie bisher durchgehalten hat. Danke an alle anderen. Marcel hat im Hintergrund sich die Finger wund getippt. Danny und Arne haben moderiert. Ingo hat die passenden Fragen gestellt. Danke an die Chatbeobachtung durch Michael und alle anderen, die dabei waren. Wahnsinn. Ohne euch wäre das auch nicht gegangen und ich habe viel erwartet, ich habe viel gehofft bei den Vorbereitungen in den letzten Wochen. Mit dieser Geschichte in der Form hätte ich nicht gerechnet. Das war nicht vorauszusehen. Das war unglaublich und sowas hätte ich niemals erwartet. Und wenn ich in eure Gesichter geschaut habe, teilweise während der Gespräche, dann kann ich mir vorstellen, was ungefähr in euch vorgegangen ist. Vielen Dank. Ich schalte mich jetzt hier mal langsam aus. Ich versuche nach Hause zu kommen. Wenn ihr noch da seid, freut es mich. Vielleicht haltet ihr noch 20 Minuten oder so durch. Keine Ahnung, wie lange ich heute brauche. Ich muss erst mal gucken, ob ich jetzt noch Auto fahren kann im Zustand. Danke und bis gleich oder bis bald.